usually when there's a natural or huge disaster like this, the media comes and they cover it, and then eventually they will go to the next huge disaster. And that's just the nature of media.
Hi, it is our pleasure tonight to introduce Madame Donut. She is a chef who's famous for her handcrafted artisanal donuts at Donut Dynamite in Maui, Hawaii. She has won Donut Showdown on the Cooking Channel and can be seen competing on MasterChef right now on season 13, currently airing on the Fox network. Besides donuts, Madame Donut is active within the community at promoting local food sustainability on Maui. We'll talk more about that. And this is something that's really interesting that she talked to us about in the pre-show. As a chef, she is committed to featuring locally sourced ingredients and continues to pursue relationships with local farms, fishermen, and hunters. Watch out for her several creative projects that highlight the beautiful island of Maui coming soon. So now I want to introduce Megan, my co-host, who has a personal connection with Madame Donut. And we'll talk about the name. We'll talk about the noise in the background, which I think I know what it is, but I'm just going to guess. I shouldn't call it noise, right? It's sounds.
Yes.
But Megan, go ahead and take it away, and we'll just have our typical conversation. And I know this one is going to be a good one.
Right. Thank you, everybody, for being here. Thank you for listening. This is my friend, Madame Donut, and we met on MasterChef this season, and we were part of the same region, her competing for Maui and me for Wyoming. And, we just kind of clicked and became friends. We got lumped together a few times, and, we have some funny stories. And I think at one point we thought that they were tracking our phones. I don't know if you guys ever found out that was or wasn't true, but I remember when that was going on. So maybe we'll talk about that after the show. So I wanted to have you on the show so that we could talk about everything amazing that you are doing. And also, we want to find out how we can support Maui because of the fires that have just happened, and that is still fresh. And I know that this was last minute for you, but thank you for being here. So, can we first talk about, before we get into your story, can we hear about what's going on in Maui just so that we can breathe easier?
First of all, aloha, you too. Great to meet you, Bill. And it's really good to see you again, Megan. One of the times we last talked, you were supposed to come visit Maui. So I was supposed to see you in real life the next time I saw you. So I mean, I'm so glad to see you here anyways, but I'm actually glad we're reconnecting no matter what. That's one thing about technology these days, at least we can reconnect. But
it's almost
so yes. So I'm home in Maui. As many of you know, we had a huge fire, a few wildfires, but one that's most affected was Lahaina, which was the capital of Hawaii. So it's this very historical area of the island and Hawaii in general. It costs us a lot of lives and businesses, and it's one of those. They say it's a natural disaster, but there's so many things and so many layered. It really just isn't about the fire at this point. I say it's layered because besides what was damaged by the fire, a lot of conversations are also coming up, like why, and also how we rebuild Lahaina. And so it's a huge conversation, at least where we are. And I want to thank you ahead of time for having me here, because I feel that, usually when there's a natural or huge disaster like this, the media comes and they cover it, and then eventually they will go to the next huge disaster. And that's just the nature of media. And so truth is, this is gonna be it's gonna be something that we're gonna be dealing with for a long time here on Maui. So again, thank you for having this conversation with me, because I want to bring that up, and I want to talk about
Right.
how now, it's like the fire happened over 2 weeks ago. We were in this big adrenaline mode, like, what can we do? We feed people, we house people, but now we're gonna be dealing with the rebuild, and it's gonna be a huge issue here on Maui, and it's something that I think people have to hear.
Right.
I think Maui, to a lot of people, it's a beautiful destination for vacation, but um, and it's convenient to say it's the 50th state, so it's like, okay, it's easy to come here, but we gotta remember that one of the unique things about Hawaii in general is that its people and its culture, and we need to revive that somehow, because the buildings that burned down was one thing, is one thing, but it's the lives that have been affected for a long time, and this, I think, is as bad as it is, we can look at this as an opportunity to fix a few things,
Right.
hopefully for the better.
Right. So if we back up a little bit, like, to when, like, when people think of Maui, and I've been to Maui a bunch of times. That's where I got married.
Yes.
And we, that's Lahaina is what people think of when they think of Maui. And the island of Maui is a lot bigger than that, but that little part that
Yes.
everybody thinks of, is that pretty much gone? Is that
Yeah.
repairable? I mean, like, what does that look like now?
Gosh, that's a really loaded question, because we're talking about the indigenous people here, the Kanaka, trying to have a seat at the table where we're having conversations right now on rebuilding. Right now, it's not as apparent that they are being heard, and so of course we want to rebuild. We want to rebuild the buildings and all that stuff, but the most efficient and the best way where everyone is happy, that's a really huge conversation. And to be honest, I'm not an expert on this, and I want to watch what I say too, because I don't want to be stepping on people's it's like, this is an issue that's beyond my expertise or my knowledge. I got involved with it really fast because of what I know I can do, right? Like,
Exactly.
people were displaced, and I mean, I immediately was just like, what can I do? The very, very next day, it's like, I have to feed people. That's what I know to do. And so I sent out a kahea, or like a call out, and basically got a lot of people, a lot of the other chefs that are already trying to do the same thing. Like, what can we do? We just cook. And so we came together and used the culinary school, since they have the huge kitchen, to all work together and figure out the best way to get the food out. Because, we have huge organizations like the Red Cross and World Central Kitchen, that, they showed up. But honestly, when they showed up, the community was already putting food out together. I mean, it gives me goosebumps, but that is something so special about Maui that you probably can't find pretty easily in most other places, is that when our neighbor needs help, we just jump in. There's no like, oh, what's what's the protocol? We don't even think about that immediately. It's like, I work with people who have boats. I mean, they just, the roads are shut down and are closed. So people who I know have boats were taking their boats around to bring supplies to the people who were stuck there. So I mean, I'm probably I'm probably all over the place right now, but what happened with the fire. But it's something I think that's very important to say about what happened, because that's really one of the things that makes Maui so beautiful, is its people.
Yes, absolutely. And we need to think of them first when we are, donating and thinking about rebuilding. So how can we focus our money and efforts to filter and funnel towards the people who actually need it, that live on Maui, that are experiencing this firsthand? Like, instead of donating to something that is going to help rebuild, tourism immediately, how can we take care of immediate need?
Yeah, so I have a few organizations that I have a list of here that I'm going to send you so we can add that link
Okay,
to
so
this.
we'll
But
just include those. But yeah,
we'll
mention them.
include those links. But even I myself is like pulled to towards many different directions, and the Red Cross is great, and World Central Kitchen's great. Um, However, most of those organizations are so big that, and it's great that they're very organized, but
Mm-hmm.
we want the monies to go straight to the people who need them, and that's become an issue, quite honestly. I know that there have been monies being sent, but they haven't even been dispersed to people who
Right.
need them. It just takes a long
It
time.
takes.
So if
Mm-hmm.
yeah, so if you're on social media, just this is my personal opinion, right? Again, this is not my expertise to say, hey, this is how you're going to spend your money. But
Right.
for what I know, because if you live in Maui, you pretty much know at least one person who's directly affected by the fire, right? So for me, I think if you want like the biggest impact for your $5 or your $20 or whatever it is that you can afford to donate, it's best to donate it to the people directly. So one of the if you're on social media on Instagram,
Mm-hmm.
there's Lahaina Ohana Venmo page
Okay.
right now, where basically people, and they're verified people, that lost their homes, and they have their own account there. So you can, yeah, quote unquote, adopt a family and just send
Okay.
one person or one family directly. So that's one way I think that people can send their money, and it's getting to the right people right away. And then there are
Okay.
several organizations. There's a Maui Strong Fund, Maui Rapid Response, Maui Mutual Aid, who that particular organization is ran by Kanaka. So
Okay.
it's like, again, local people and indigenous Hawaiians who are running it. So and I don't want to like pick one group because I think everybody needs help, but I think they're underrepresented in many ways, right? So they need
Mm-hmm.
help, and they need to have a stronger voice. So if you feel that that clicks with you, then
Mm-hmm.
I can direct people to certain organizations that at least speak with you and what you want to, how you ever want to help. So we have several
Okay.
of those. But if you helped out World Central Kitchen, or even Chef Hui Hawaii, which is another organization that we work with as chefs, they're based in Honolulu.
Okay.
It still will fund the efforts. I'm just, you just kind of pick and choose, because I don't want
Great.
to tell people like this is the best organization to donate to, because there's not one. And in fact, that's one of the things that I want to do in my own efforts, is that I want to raise funds and I want to rotate, because I don't want to be personally associated with just one organization, because I don't think one organization is perfect. So I
Right.
do have a lot of things that I'm working
That's a
on.
good way to look at it. Yeah.
Thank you, thank you. I'm
Mm-hmm.
actually, I was so inspired by this whole thing. If I just may, if I may just say this, I'm actually
Yes,
going to
please do.
Alaska to. Yeah, so I'm going to Alaska to meet up with Lizzie, from the
From
West,
MasterChef.
from our team, and we're
Yes.
doing a fundraising there. So I'm just gonna say it now because that's what's happening this week. But that's so inspiring because I want to talk about MasterChef a bit, and
Mm-hmm.
uh, how do I say this? I think I'm very open with the fact that I didn't really understand MasterChef very well. So when I got
Really,
in the
I know.
show,
I kind of felt like I didn't understand it either. I hadn't really watched the
I think a
show.
lot of us didn't.
Yeah,
Um,
but yeah, I probably know what you're going to say, but I can't wait for you to say it. So say it.
so I personally, okay, I feel very strongly about my cause, right? But about my purpose
Right.
when it comes to why I cook, why. And I want to talk about my name, because I know that's a big question to a lot of people, and I want to
Yes.
explain why I'm Madame Donut, and I want to go there, right? But when I got in MasterChef, I was like thinking, oh, it's like a home cooking show, and so I thought like it would be a good platform to talk about where do you source your ingredients to cook at home, and how do you come together as cooks and whatever. And I know a cooking competition, but honestly, I hardly watch TV, so I think I had a different understanding of what it was going to be. So when I was there, I realized I didn't want to do it anymore. But then, and so I was very uninspired doing the show. And, I'm not going to say many details about that other than now, today, my feeling about MasterChef changed because of the people that I met there. And I know it sounds so cliche, but because of the purpose, because of my cause, I realized that, oh my God, I have people reaching out to me from outside of Maui. Like, I've been in my own bubble. I live in Maui. I love Maui. I pretty much never left the island for a long time because I just love being here. But through MasterChef, I met you, and I met a lot of people who have reached out and showed me aloha in their own way, and how they want to know how they can help. And I'm going to have a series of collaborations that I'm going to be doing with, you and a bunch of other people from MasterChef. And like I said, I was like, oh my God, the last few days, basically, it was like, this is why I did MasterChef. Like, to have this network of people, because there are many good people out there. And, I am so touched by how many people reached out to me since the fire. So thank you, MasterChef.
Oh, I know. Isn't it great? I know, the people are the best part. The people are the best part. And it's okay. So
Truly.
Season 13, MasterChef on Fox, watch it 8:00 at most places. And you're still in it.
I'm still in it.
What is it? Top 10 now?
Almost. Yes. So basically, we got secured the top 10 position, me and Sav.
Yay!
Yeah, it was great. It was a tag team too, which I really loved winning that particular challenge, because one of the things I always talked about is, and even now, right on Maui, is like how we come together. And so the tag team to me is like a special kind of challenge where it shows how you can work with somebody well, right? Because it's a competition, so you're in it for yourself. But I'm especially proud that what I won was when I could show that I could work with somebody.
Oh, I love that.
Especially somebody not in my team.
Yeah.
I was very excited about that.
I'm going to ask you this question because I think you posted it on Instagram or Facebook or somewhere public. So I feel like it's public to say, but you said, you feel like a lot of, and this is what I got out of it. You feel like maybe some stuff didn't get aired because it wasn't, dramatic, that you didn't really, say anything negative about your teammates, and you didn't really throw anybody under the bus. And, you kind of wanted to lift people up. And that, I guess, sometimes doesn't make the best TV, but it does make the best people. So I'm sad that it didn't air. But
what's funny? The very first day, and I don't know if you remember this because I was so busy, so I don't think we know or remember what everybody else said the very first day before we all started cooking during the auditions. And Chef Ramsay was just kind of like talking to the whole crowd, like, oh, what would you do if you won? Blah, blah, blah. And somebody said, oh, I'll travel and eat everywhere. And I said, if I won, I'm going to use that money for my nonprofit to feed people in Maui. And that didn't make it, obviously. It was just a casual, like, hey, hello, whatever. So I didn't think that was going to make it. But that was always my goal. And you saw that post. I said it in the back of my head. I thought I was going to infiltrate MasterChef with a different meaning of food and coming together. And that's where I felt like, well, you can't expect a certain platform with a different idea of entertainment or whatever their message is or whatever their brand is to kind of just say, okay, well, that's your idea, we'll buy into it. So I no ill feelings about it, quite honestly. It was just I wasn't mad. I was just reporting what happened. It's just something that I thought that was important that I want to put out there. And, since you didn't hear it, I wanted to say it.
Yeah, exactly.
So, and it's fine.
We should have some say in how we're represented. So good for you. I think that was amazing. So yeah, I mean, you just jumped right in when there was a need. As soon as within 24 hours. I mean, how did you round up these resources? Do you have connections? Like, I mean, I know you own a business, so which is Donut Dynamite, which we'll talk about in a minute. But like, how did you pull this off?
Honestly, I didn't realize how many people are watching me. So, okay, I'm very colorful, as you can tell, and the last few years on Maui, I can't go anywhere without people recognizing me. I mean, like little kids would be like, "Auntie Donut," and it's a lot of fun. But I'm kind of a local celebrity here. I guess I'm embarrassed to say that about myself, but that's kind of what I've become. And what's interesting about this is that a few years ago, when I realized I'm so popular here on the island, I resented it because I'm like the back of the house. Like, I know I'm like a ham and I'm very colorful, but I love working alone. I work in my donut shop by myself. It's a one-woman operation. So generally speaking, it's not like I'm not a team. What do you say?
You are.
It's like
team player.
I am. It's just that I like my space, right? So I knew I had a lot of followers. And I think what happened too, it's not just because of me, but when that thing happened, everybody was on their phone, right? Like, just like during the pandemic, everyone's on their phone. Like, what's happening to the rest of the world? So everyone was on their phone. Like, what's happening? How can we help? Where can we go? And I put out this message, like, I need help. Like, I have a friend, her name's Jennifer, and she started a nonprofit herself during the pandemic called Common Ground Collective. And actually, that's another organization that I think is it's a good organization to give money to, because with or without the fire, the goal is to get food out there and prevent food waste and help like distribute the food that we already have here, because we have food here. It's just going bad. I think it's so sad seeing like mangoes coming from a different country or different part of the world, and we buy them here for $5 each when we have mangoes coming, just falling off the trees here, rotting. There's something wrong with that. So her organization's helping reduce that. So she goes into people's backyards and ag land that's not being taken care of, and so she's taking the food and distributing it to people who need it. So,
oh my gosh, that's so great.
When this thing happened, she and I were like calling each other, what are we gonna do? And right away we ran basically to the culinary school, which it's in the middle of, like, it's vacation time, so there's no classes. She reached out to the chancellor, and we're just like, we need a kitchen right now, and he's like, okay, you got it. But nobody was there. Nobody was expecting us there. We go there and there's a guard, like, what are you doing here? I was like, call the chancellor right now. Let us in. We had like boxes of like potatoes and whatever she could get from her kitchen. And I also I just went online. I went on Instagram and put out my call out there. It's like, hey, any chefs out there or anyone who wants to help us cook, we need to cook for people. That's all I did. And I seriously had people from the Big Island, from Honolulu, from the mainland, flying into the island to help us cook. It was crazy. And then all these other chefs who were starting their own little projects as well. Like, well, they have their kitchen. They started cooking. But then the problem with not coming together is that they're sending food to a shelter and another kitchen sending food sometimes to the same shelter. And then there are shelters not getting anything. So what we did is like, well, okay, where are you at? What are you doing? What area can you cover? And then eventually we used the school as a hub for all these kitchens to just deliver the food here. We're packaging them, and then World Central Kitchen came in, so they were helping distribute that. The Red Cross was helping as well. So it became like, okay, let's all just come together here, figure out where to distribute so that no one's hungry and no food's getting wasted. So I honestly don't know how I pulled it off. It was just like, I'm gonna use my voice really loud, and they heard me.
Thank you.
I'm
so
grateful
glad
that
you
I was
did.
able to use.
Yes.
Sometimes you're on this, like,
some of us have a big
like I said,
voice for a reason.
adrenaline.
Yes.
Yes. I was like, you know what? I'm colorful for a reason because you can find me anywhere. It's like my SOS, is just my hair color like waving around, and it worked. And it's really interesting because I realized that that's one more contribution you know, I can put out there, right? So when something like this happens, like the fire or the pandemic, you gotta figure out what your strengths are and how you
Yes.
can inject
How
yourself
you
or
can
like
use that.
put yourself in this like, okay, where can I be most useful? And I
Right.
realized, like I said, when it comes to food and getting people together, was like that was one of my strengths. Is like I
Right.
can put a call out there and people help out somehow.
Oh
So
my gosh.
that's
Have you
why
heard
this
do you
inspired
know
me.
do you know the hummingbird parable?
Tell me.
It's the one where the forest catches on fire and all of the animals just they stand around, they don't know what to do, they flee, they run, they try and help or what, but they don't know what to do. But this little hummingbird, it goes and it gathers water on its wings and it comes back and tries to help put out the fire, little droplet by little droplet by little droplet at a time, and then encourages others to come and help. And then that's what you did. I mean, you are
Oh
the
my God, I love
hummingbird.
that. Thank you
I
so
know, it gives me
much.
chills.
Oh my God, that's really beautiful. Thank you. I like being the hummingbird then. That's going to be
Yes,
that probably was my spirit animal and I didn't even know it.
I'm sure it was. I'm sure it was.
Thanks, Megan, for that. That made my day.
Oh, good.
So
Good.
Megan, World Central Kitchen is run by
Chef
that guy
Andre.
that we were talking about. Yeah, we were
Oh,
talking about a
Jose
couple shows
Andres.
ago, or maybe we were talking. Yeah, and he's amazing.
Mm.
So
Yeah,
okay.
give it to him, man.
he's an amazing
He's
human.
fed millions of people.
This has
Okay,
been a
yeah.
great
So,
organization because uh, and also one of the things I love about the organization, it's really about cooking real food. And that's one more thing is that we
Hmm.
came together. So this is what happened between me and my friend Jennifer from Common Ground Collective. She and I were talking on the phone. She's like, I talked to Salvation Army. So Salvation Army, I didn't want to be dropping names necessarily, but it's an organization that we're
that's okay.
working with to help again distribute a lot of what's needed out there, right? And we need organizations for this because again, what you're
Mhm.
talking about in the forest, where all these animals are just going crazy, not knowing where to go. There's a reason why we
Yeah.
have these organizations, is to kind of make it more efficient. They've already made the mistakes of like running around, not knowing where to go. So
Right.
that's why we need
Right.
them as well. Um,
Right.
but where the hell was I? Sorry, I lost my train of thought.
You were talking about the Salvation Army and you and Jennifer.
Oh yeah. So Jen, she was like, yeah, I was talking to them and they said they're gonna buy a bunch of. I'm not gonna say the name of the pizza company, but it's a chain, and they were like, because the roads are impassable. I mean, they literally said they were just gonna drop boxes of these pizzas into
Oh
these
my
like in
gosh.
Lahaina, and I was just like, hell with this, and I was like angry about it. Like this, I mean, I know it looked like a war zone when you see what happened to Lahaina, but like, don't treat people
bad.
like that. I mean, I feel
No.
so strongly about that. If you want them to heal, one of the things that you can do is to feed them proper food,
Yes.
good
Mhm.
food, because that is so just it gives me goosebumps because that's how people come together. That's how a village comes together. Any kind of get together, whether you're in, you have you're celebrating something or whatever it is, food is a big part of that coming together. So I felt like one way for people to heal is to feel that they're welcome and be fed well, not with junk food.
Absolutely.
And I know I say like I make donuts, but I don't make junk food. So I feel very strongly against that. So my friend and I were like, no, we have food here. We have real ingredients. Like honestly, I cannot tell
Mhm.
you. It's been really amazing. We have these beautiful organic farms
Yes.
sending us the best ingredients. Like it makes me so happy, like chopping away like real food that were just so
Yes.
beautiful. And I know that that's what we were feeding these people. Like, and
That's so
I am so
important.
impassioned by that.
Yes.
So
Food
yeah.
is
Anyways,
hugely important.
no dropping boxes of
No
pizzas on people.
pizzas.
Sorry,
No.
You mean you're against Amazon using their drones to drop like prepackaged foods into
well,
people's
it just
backyards? You don't like that?
see. I think it's cold. You know,
Yes.
there are. That's why my friends, like I said, people I know, I'm friends with many fishermen, for example. Like I said, they took their boats and handed people what they need. There is something about that. In fact, I'm working with one of the chefs that I work with. He has the new program called oh God, I forgot already. But na ole aloha, which means the voices of aloha.
Okay.
And he basically has these kids like at school, like the kids feel like, oh, what can we do, you know? And
Mhm.
he was like, everyone just knows that they're being thought of, right? So he had these kids write little cards, handwritten notes, and anyone can pick it up, and they're just voices of like, we are here for you. And it's so amazing when you see people like reading them, and they're in Lahaina and they know that they're being remembered, or somebody's sending them words of hope. They're crying, and then I'm just like, people need that. And again, going back to where we're at right now, the fire happened over 2 weeks ago. I was
Right.
just in the mainland, and the news about Maui is still sort of in the air, but not as much. And
Right.
that's gonna dwindle down, and that's
Right.
just the nature of the beast. But the real work now that we don't have the adrenaline of like, oh my god, like let's feed people, where we've placed a lot of people in different homes. Like some of the hotels are actually housing displaced people so
Wow.
that they have a home to go to. A lot of B&B places
Mhm.
have taken on families, and some families here who have homes have adopted, like they have 20 families in their home. Sometimes it's crazy, but people
Wow.
are doing their what they can do to because the shelters are gone. So we had
Yeah.
the shelters the first week or so. Now they're gone. Now we have them at least in real buildings, if you will,
Wow.
and at least a little bit more comfortable. We have
That happened pretty
small
quickly, I
boxed up.
guess. Yeah.
It happened really quickly, and honestly, a lot of it is because of grassroots efforts. FEMA
Mhm.
didn't. I'm not gonna go into that. It sounds political, but
Right.
FEMA didn't even come here until over a week later, almost like
Hmm.
second week.
Wow.
And considering we're close to a military base, we didn't get any help from the U.S. military until much later. I mean, it was, again, like I
Mhm.
said, I don't want to be political about it because that's not my expertise, but
Right.
I think my point in mentioning that is that the community here were the ones who were here first to
They
help
came
people
through.
out. By the time the Red Cross came, even the Red Cross was just, they were so impressed, and the World Central Kitchen. They were so impressed by how organized we were at getting help to those who need them before we
Wow.
even had any federal help. So,
Doesn't that just make
I
you so
mean,
proud of your community?
I am so proud of Maui. And when we were doing MasterChef during the filming, I always talked about Maui. I always talked about how
Yes, you did.
special it
Mhm.
is. And I all the time. And if people ask me, it's like, oh, do you miss home? I'm like, hell yes. It's like,
Yeah.
I miss Maui every day that I was there.
Yeah.
I asked them, I was
I
like, can
bet
we
you
go
did.
hiking? And I said it all the time. It was something very important to me. And I'm very proud of Maui. I'm very proud to
Yeah.
represent Maui on MasterChef. I'm very proud to be still talking about it everywhere I go, because the people is really what makes it so beautiful here, and
Yeah.
I'm
Oh,
proud to be part of the
okay.
people.
Okay.
Well,
So let's shift some gears.
yeah. Yeah.
Um, what is the cooing in the background?
Oh, we have a lot of chickens. So we have a lot of wild, like
That's what I thought.
feral
That's what I thought.
chickens, and
I
they're
Well,
thought it was
just
like
around.
parrots.
No way, they're chickens.
Chicken.
so I've only been to Maui one time, and it was a couple
And they're
years ago,
everywhere.
and it was beautiful. But the besides the beautiful scenery and all the sights and the water and everything, the thing that stuck in my head was there are chickens everywhere.
Everywhere.
Yeah.
In the
They're everywhere,
airport,
and
parking
they're
lot.
free range.
Uh-huh.
They don't bug you. They just like walk around in groups,
Yep.
and
Yeah.
they're everywhere though.
Yeah, it's so
Yeah.
funny. So I wasn't born and raised in Hawaii. I was born in another island, set of islands. I was born in the Philippines, and I grew up in a farm. And we pretty much grew and raised most everything that we ate. And so I do recall being a kid, being tiny, and my mom's like, "Okay, catch the biggest chicken you can catch for dinner," right? So
Yeah.
during the pandemic, and when everybody's, "Oh, we might not have any food," I was like, "What are you talking about?"
Yeah.
I'll teach you how to
Everywhere.
catch one of them if it comes out. If it comes down to that, I can tell you right now how to catch a chicken, dress them, and cook them from
Yeah.
scratch. From
Right?
while they're
I mean,
scratching.
how many master chefs can do that? Yeah.
I was, to be
That's
honest
right.
with you, we had the chicken
The
challenge.
I
I was
yeah, I
kind of
remember
hoping
that
it
one.
was live.
Right? That would have been better TV.
I was kind of hoping that we had a challenge where we had to be outdoors and like cook with what you got there, you know, instead of
Right? Wouldn't
just
that be
the
fun?
regular pantry. And cooking
Maybe
with
that's a whole
fire,
other
you know.
show.
Oh
Maybe
yeah,
that's a whole other show.
I was very inspired. I learned a lot from the show. And there's a lot of stuff that I want to put out there that I feel like, that was a cool idea. Let me make my twist on that. So I'm actually
Yeah.
working on a show.
Are you?
And that's gonna. I wrote a show and I kind of got my pitch deck ready and all that stuff. So this is something that I wrote before the fire, but it was something that it goes in line with everything that I've been doing since the pandemic. I wanted it to feature Maui and the food here, how you source food. I wanted to show how if you eat chicken, you don't just have to go to the grocery store. You can go to the farm. And I want to show live chicken. Like, I want to show the farmers growing, raising them. I want to go to farms and show how they're growing the food that comes to us. Like, it's a trendy thing to say farm to table, and I love the concept.
Right, but take advantage of that. Yeah.
Yeah, and I it's something that I want to like put in people's faces a little bit more. Like, it sounds great, but like,
absolutely.
really, if you're faced with the chicken, can you kill it? And it's not inhumane. There's
and if
a
you
way.
can't, then maybe you shouldn't eat it. Yeah.
Yeah, so I just have, again, that's my own opinion, but I feel strongly about it. And
you are here because we want your opinion and your point of view and your answers. Don't filter.
Thank you.
Yeah. So let's go back. So you are not from Maui though. You're from the Philippines, and you moved to Maui as a child or as an adult?
Oh, as an adult, I'm kind of fairly world traveled. Really, I I like itchy feet. Like, I moved around a lot. I lived in San Francisco. Yes, I think we were talking. Well, that's why you have your motels as well, and you're like checking out different places, right? Because it's a great way to. I always feel like if you can merge what you love with your business or your work or your cause, that's great. I don't like to have to compartmentalize everything that I do. Like, I love food. I grew up with it, cooking it, raising it, growing it, that I feel like, well, that's why it turned out to be the person that I am today, and I love it. Some people want to separate it. It was like, I just work, clock in, clock out, and do my things that I love after, which whatever works for people. But for me, I find so much meaning in every minute that I put a lot of hard work into whatever it is that I'm doing because of how much I love it. So growing up in the Philippines, we didn't have electricity when I was a kid. I grew up in the boonies, so my uncles built this clay stove. I literally had to start fire 3 times a day to cook because we didn't have refrigeration, so everything had to be fresh. The first time I ever walked into a real grocery store, supermarket, I was already 14 years old. And I was like, oh my God, how do you know if it's fresh? Because we get all these meats without blood and all that stuff.
Right?
Which most people would freak out if they see blood.
Look right.
To me, I freaked out that it didn't have blood. Like, what is that? How is that fresh? When did you kill this chicken or cow or whatever it is, And it was really interesting because some people would look at that and kind of like, oh my God. Like, I actually want to mention Charles, because Charles is from Cambodia, and we had that talk about chicken, that challenge where he was using what would be scraps for people, like, oh, that's
Right.
like food being wasted. And I think he made something really cool, and
Hmm.
showed that like you can make proper dishes out of
That's
this
not
and
garbage.
avoid
Yeah.
food waste. And I think that's respecting the animal, so when people
Absolutely.
when people are freaked out about seeing blood, that they have to kill their own animal to eat, I'm like, I would be more freaked out that you're wasting food. It's like,
Mhm.
oh, that's trim, that's not good for, like, why? Like, it's food.
Yeah.
It's like, it's
Yeah,
more
it is.
respectful. I think it's more gross having to throw it out. Like,
Right.
food waste to me
I
is
don't think I fully understood that concept about, like, and I never respected hunting as much as I do now after moving here and experiencing it and talking to hunters and people that, they do use the whole animal and,
yeah,
they get, fill their freezer for a year and a half with an
yeah,
elk or, whatever it is that they're hunting. And, I used to look at it as like, oh, that's not necessary. We don't have to do that
yeah,
anymore. But it is really a beautiful thing when you really do experience it.
yeah.
Yeah.
During the pandemic, I learned to hunt. So I hunt with a bow, and
Wow.
I am
You need
kind
to
of,
come to Wyoming.
yeah. I would actually. I mean, I'd bring my bow, and but I am sort of kind of. I haven't gone recently. Talk about the need. There's actually an organization here, a Maui Nui Venison. It's a business, if you will, but they figured out a way to serve wild hunted venison,
Hmm.
which is a huge problem here in Maui. We have an overpopulation of access deer,
Yeah.
and it's
Oh,
actually
Yep.
caused a lot of issues with farmers. It was, I mean, they're basically become pests, unfortunately. They're so cute, I know,
Yep.
but they cause a lot of damage. So there's this company called Maui Nui Venison, and they hunt, and they hunt with heart. I mean, they're amazing people, and the venison here is so good. But am sort of, if I still like have the time to go, I'm in an eradication team in a farm where I can go hunt officially, because most of the land here is private, right? So that's one thing
right.
about hunting here, is that you have to get um, permits from the people who own the land. So that's how I partnered with
Right.
this farm, and I am allowed to go there and hunt myself. And we really use the whole animal. And if you want just
Right.
the premium, cuts of meat, you can have that. But what we do in the farm is that any leftover carcass and all that stuff goes
Hmm.
into back into the soil. So
That's so
it
great.
enriches the soil. You know what I mean? So it everything is used.
Everything
So
is used.
it's really respectful,
That's
I think. And quite
beautiful.
honestly, it's perfectly amazing meat. I would
Mhm.
eat that any day over meats that are being sent
Commercialized and
here, commercialized.
weeks
And
and weeks
my
old. And
brother lives in Bakersfield, and I've driven by Highway 5, where I was like, oh my god, like, that's where a lot of the meat come from. And I swear I'd rather go hunt for my own meat any day. Quite
yeah,
honestly, no
gross.
disrespect,
Yeah.
but kind of.
No, I get it. I get it. So, so tell us about how you became Madame Donut. How when you moved to Maui, what life was like then, and were you always Madame Donut at heart? Like, tell us that story.
Okay, I love donuts from the get-go. So when I went to baking school.
Uh-huh.
And one of my chef instructors there was the original pastry chef for the French Laundry. And he
Wow.
introduced, yes, so I love him.
Hmm.
Chef Durfee, I'd probably like send a little clip of this to him just to remind him how much he kind of changed my life in some way. I mean, we always meet
Oh.
people who inspire you in different phases in your life. And
Hmm.
at the time, he had donuts and coffee dessert in the French Laundry. And I remember thinking, like, my very first job when I was 15 years old was at Dunkin' Donuts. So I felt
Uh-huh.
like I know donuts. So why would
Okay.
you put donuts in the French Laundry menu? Like, this is like one of the top restaurants in the world. So I was very
Yes.
curious. And he actually gave us the recipe for that particular dessert, and we actually made it in class. And I went to the French Laundry and had that dessert, and I was like thinking, donuts or anything is not junk if you make it right. If you make it properly, so I was just like, elevate what you think would be junk or unimportant, and so when I was getting out of baking school, right away I worked in fine dining restaurants, and I remember thinking, well, it was easy to make the high-end desserts or make the French pastries and get respect for it, but I thought really the challenge is to take what is normally seen as junk and changing people's minds about it, right? So I always thought in the back of my mind, I was like, I want to make donuts because it's the worst. It's fried, it's sweet. There's like, it's nothing fancy. But see, that's the thing. It's like, I wanted the feeling of that familiarity and that childlike joy of getting a treat without the uppity, like, oh, I had a croissant. I love croissants. That's one of the first pastries I ever made.
Those are great. But
those are great. That's what I'm saying. It's easy to sell something already like regarded as something high end and beautiful and frou-frou and whatever. But like a donut, when you say a donut, it's like, what? Like, I literally still get it. Like, why you make donuts? Like, and I've even had people ask me, it's like, do you feel responsible for making people fat? I was like, that's not what I teach. Yeah, I mean, I've had people ask me, this is before they knew what I do and the kind of donuts that I make, but I chose the donut because of the challenge. Like, it would be so much easier to say, oh, I'll make French pastries, or I make these beautiful plated desserts in a 5-star restaurant. Yeah, everybody did that or wanted to do that. I was like, no, what I want to do is change your mind about something ugly or gross or junk. I majored in fitness or exercise science. So I had a lot of friends who were like,
no, you
what?
Didn't.
Like, you're evil now? I was like, no, let me change your mind about it. So that's basically the motivation for me, is to change people's minds and also show that it's not mutually exclusive to have a treat and be healthy. So part of what I do on my own platform is that I show people that I'm active. People see me running up and down the mountains, lifting or doing, being active, not overly crazy about my fitness, because I think that it can go other way. You know what I mean? Like, the balance and how beautiful it can be, and I talk about sustainability a lot, and I don't mean just food sources and all that or business. It's also happiness. Like, how can you sustain your happiness if you're like on a freaking diet all the time and you're not allowed something that pleasures you? And to me, that donut is a symbol of that. Like, oh my God, like, I mean, I'm sorry, but nobody gets excited about saying, oh my God, I ate the like leanest salad and like I boiled my chicken breast. Like, that's not exciting. You don't giggle about it. And giggling is an amazing feeling. Like, it's not just laughing. It's the giggling. Like, you almost did something naughty.
Like, you got away with it.
I had a donut. I think that we should always have that. Like, we don't lose that, that's when you have your childlike wonder still in life. And I think donuts again, it's like a childlike treat. Like,
that's so
I'm
funny.
Gonna be slightly irresponsible. And so let's go back to
donuts are the circle of life.
They are the circle of life.
Let's go back to my name. And so when I first used the name Madame Donut, I was hiding. I didn't want to be known, which is really interesting. I thought, okay, I'm a back of the house kind of person. I'm a chef. I don't talk to people, right? Like, let the front people kind of talk about it. Well, when you start your business, you talk to people.
You have to.
So in the beginning, I was like thinking, how do I put myself out there? And I swear to God, I didn't even have pictures of myself. My original logo had me holding my donut like this because I was covering my face. I didn't want to be out there. And so I was like, what can I be to be out there and feel like I'm being me, but there's like, I can separate my private
almost
life.
like
So I didn't want to put my real name out there. So I was like, one of my friends whose mom couldn't remember my name was just like, oh, how's your friend, Madame Donut? And I was like,
oh my gosh,
let me take that name.
So cute.
So I took it on and I use it kind of like my pen name. So if I'm in public, I say I'm Madame Donut. People are like, and here's the thing, like I said, I was using it to hide my, who I am, Well,
Yeah.
it kind of boomerang back. Because people are like, well, who the hell calls themselves that? If anything, it got more attention than I
Yeah.
expected.
The universe was
As
like, you're not going to hide.
you're not gonna hide. So I became my own living billboard of my business, Donut Dynamite. And then I took on Madame Donut and I registered it as my basically my stage name. And you know, when
Uh-huh.
when you register your business, you have to define what it is. And I was just like mascot for Donut Dynamite. I literally made
Okay.
myself the mascot for Donut Dynamite. So I had been using Madame Donut as sort of kind of my pen name, if you will, as I come out in
Mm-hmm.
public as the one who made these donuts. And then, and you know, and I loved it because I loved having my private life. And then when the
Yeah.
pandemic happened, um, you know, again, we kind of step into, like, we jump into action, like, what can we do, right? And then I had to close my donut shop. Well, we all had to close, shut down the world, basically, right? And I was looking around, it's like, what can I do in my power, or what I know, what can I do to help the community? Because we're
Yeah.
on our own right now, you know, and you know, there's that fear of the barges stop coming to Hawaii, like, what are we gonna eat? And I was just like, well, I
Yeah.
know we have thing, you know, we have food to eat. And
Right.
I wanted to show people, like, we have so much, and not, you know, shouldn't be worrying. And I also, of course, wanted to reopen my business. So I thought, okay, what can I do? What can we do? And I thought, we have to support our fellow businesses here. There are ways to get stuff done in the mainland and sent them here for cheap. But I was like, nope. I I had some hats made and some t-shirts made by a local company. I thought it was very important to hire a local printer.
Mm-hmm.
And then I sold them because to raise funds so I can reopen my business. And I sold so many hats that weekend because people wanted me to reopen. And I was so touched because I was like,
Oh,
all I wanted to do is kind of like, okay, spend my last $200 on a local business. And it kind of
yeah.
came back to me tenfolds. And I felt that the only way I can survive or even do better as a business
Mhm.
person is to give back.
Yes.
It became a big part of what I should be doing as a business person. Like, I have to support others because I cannot be the only one successful. Because if that is the fact, if that's the case, who's going to support me? So everybody else
Right.
around me locally has to do well, right? So I was just like,
Right.
okay, that's when I became like a huge voice in supporting local businesses and our food sustainability here. And it was also around the time somebody was telling me, and it's around the time I started my nonprofit. And she's like, have you heard of donut economics? And I was like, what? Shut up. Like, I wish I made up that term, you know? Basically, it's a circular economics, you know, and there's,
Okay.
you know, when you think of economics and if you think of the way it looks, usually the projection is like you go up, 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 and there's really no
Right.
conversation and when it goes down, right? And
Okay.
when it drops, and then we go up, up, up again. I was like, wait, that doesn't sound so efficient, you
Right.
know? Because so, anyways, the idea of donut economics or circular economics is that there's got to be a justifiable way to do business where everybody's getting what they need, whether it be, you know, for their health, you know, and health of the earth, right? We can't keep like just producing and then what? We're going to deplete the world's
Right.
resources and then we're going to
Just like
move
the
to Mars.
Lorax.
Okay, I get it. People are trying
Yeah.
to do that. But like, what if we try to take care of ourselves first? And part of that donut economics is like local and then we go global. It's not saying that we don't support global economy. It's just that you have to support local first and the people and what they need. And when one group of people or like a small number of people making all the money and nobody else is, that's really not just, and it's
Right.
also not sustainable. And so the
Right.
donut economics just kind of coming back at me in my face basically, and the fact that I was already Madame Donut, and I had this moment, I was like, is my donut, like, I thought I was Madame Donut because of the treats that I make, but it's really
Mm-hmm.
my cause and my purpose. It's like like what I was
Oh,
saying, like how did I do it? Like how was I able to put a call out there and people came together and help out? I was like,
yeah,
that's who I am. That is my strength.
because it
That is
came
my
back.
gift. I was trying to
Mhm.
figure out what I can do to help. That's what it
So
was.
of
And so it
course it
became my thing.
happened.
And
Yeah.
yeah. And it was also around the time I got divorced. So my
Mhm.
mom was asking me, she's like, "Oh, are you keeping your married name?" And I was like, "Hell no." And then I was like, "Well, I don't want to go back to my maiden name either." And she's like, "Well, don't people call you Madame Donut already?" And I was like, "Yes, but I never changed my license." And I
Uh-huh.
thought, like, and I was like, "Wait a minute. I registered that as my business, like public name.
Uh-huh.
There's no reason why I wouldn't take that on as my real name at this point." So I changed my name legally. That is why when I was on the show, I was a little upset that they called me MD. And I was like, that's not who I am. I'm Madame Donut.
No.
And well, unfortunately, Gordon uses the word donut when he's being mean to people. So he's like, I'm not going to call you donut. I'm going to call you MD. But that is
Oh.
why I was a little
Why wouldn't
sour
they let
about.
you do it? That's weird.
I cannot tell you, that's their own story, and I cannot speak for
Yeah.
them. But before the auditions, I already told them if I'm not going as Madame Donut, I'm not doing the show. I had I don't know if you remember this, when we had our very first meeting in the room when they announced who are going to audition, and I was there. I had a talk with one of the producers. I told them I'm not doing the show unless I go as Madame Donut. It means a
Good for
lot to
you.
me. My name is not just because it's the treat. They're like, "Oh, it's your business name." I'm like, no, it's my name. And
Yeah.
so they told me I can go as Madame Donut. And then when I got my apron, it said MD. I lost joy in cooking in that kitchen. I was very
Yeah.
uninspired after that, but
Yeah, that kind of
whatever.
sucks.
I still did it.
Yeah,
I
and
had no
you're
choice at
killing
that point.
it. You're killing
Thank
it.
you.
Oh my gosh, I'm so proud of you. I am so proud of you. It's
Thank
so hard
you.
to watch every week. Oh,
Yeah.
oh
Oh,
my
and
gosh.
to be honest, I haven't seen most of the episodes except this
Oh
past
yeah?
week,
So you
because
haven't even seen it.
I haven't seen the show since the auditions. But I saw the last two episodes because I was in the mainland, and
Um,
there's TV in my hotel room, and I was like, what do I do? I guess I gotta watch it. So I watched it for
yeah.
the first time since the auditions, and it was so funny too, because it was, of course, like, it was a good week that I was off to see the
Uh-huh.
show, because that's when we got the immunity pin, and I didn't plan
Hmm.
that. And also that episode where I was crushing on Chef Rush, so that was a
Yes.
fun one.
You were such a star on that one. You were so good.
You
I
know,
love that they highlighted you.
I actually want to say something about that, because talking about my purpose, right? So I, the show again was a drama, like on that particular episode, like me
Right.
crushing on Chef Rush. And at first I was a little like, no. But I just want to say I'm so glad they included that part in the beginning when I said thank you to Chef Rush, because of what he was doing for the community, and he has a lot of
Yes.
charity work. And so when I first heard about him, and most of us kind of knew or had an idea who might be coming.
Hmm.
Um, when I first heard about him, I read his story. And remember when I was like saying I was trying to figure out what my purpose is and how to, how I can be of service. And basically his little story was very similar to mine. And mine is smaller. I didn't go as viral as he did. But basically, when I was dealing with my own popularity here on Maui, and I felt like I'm a private person, I don't want that kind of attention. But then I realized, well, okay, well, here I am, like, what do I do with it? And I thought
Right.
that if I'm getting this attention, what if I can funnel that into something that's bigger than me and more important than I am, right? Like when it
Yeah.
comes to my purpose. So when I was reading his story, and basically when he went viral, he made that decision. It's like, okay, this is something I stand for, and that's why I'm here. That's what I'm going to use my popularity for. And so I made this
Uh-huh.
whole comment like, oh my God, I think he said, I'm so in love with Chef Rush. And then of course MC found the drama in that and put that on there. But I'm so glad that
Hmm.
they added that on, that I was really
It
thanking
was
him for
cute.
what he does.
Yes, it was.
But I had to answer
was,
a lot of questions about that, so I thought I'd
yeah.
clear that in the air.
So I just want to tell you a little story about what I learned from my family when I told them that you were going to be on the show. Um, I don't know who you are. I didn't know who you were. I don't know much about MasterChef. I only watched it because Megan was on it.
Yes.
And I only watched that episode. Um, I, I like cooking shows, but I just don't make time to watch them.
Yeah.
But my daughter does.
Mm.
And she's 10 years old, and I said, yeah, we're having this lady called Madame Donut on the show, and she goes, Madame Donut? I know her. I've watched her. She's great. Blah blah blah. And I was like, wow, she knows more about this stuff than I do. But you're affecting people probably in a bigger age range than you think.
Thank
She's
you.
10, and she knows who you are, and you made an impression on her, and I thought that was really sweet. So.
Thank you so much for sharing that.
Aww.
I have, like you said, I had to learn how to use what I got going for me. Like I said, the attention. If people are looking at me, what can I do with that? That is going to have some impact, the positive impact. That makes me happy.
That's hugely inspiring because that's really rare. A lot of people just want the attention and want the attention, but you're throwing it back out into the world, and I love that about you.
Thank you.
Yeah. Oh, so this is not the first time you were on TV. You also won Donut Showdown on the Cooking Channel?
Yes, this was 8 years ago now, I guess, before I opened the brick and mortar. So
oh wow.
Yeah. So they called me. This is me. Okay. Even the first time MasterChef reached out to me, I was like, no. I have this weird like good and evil kind of thing going on in my conscience. Like I said, I don't want to be popular, but then opportunities keep coming to me like, oh, let's put you out there. And I'm like, okay. And, I've learned more and more recently to like just own it, right? And even have fun with it and, enjoy it in my own way, And I think the best way for me to enjoy it is like, again, to attach it to something that I think is more important than me. So I'm not the one you're going to remember eventually, hopefully. So anyways, that whole donut show, then they called me and I said no at first. And then they called me again. And the second time they called me, I was like, I need money to open my shop. So I was like, well, I mean, it's 10 grand. It's not like a whole lot of money, but it was like, I was so broke, So I was like, I'll take 10 grand if I can make 10 grand in one day, like, that would be great. It was just like one of those, like, well, it sounds right, And this is the funny thing. That particular production was filmed in Canada. So here is me thinking, this is me thinking like, oh, it's in Canada. Nobody I know would know it. Like, I'm going to do the show, make the 10 grand, and then come home and never tell anybody about the show. So I go in.
Because TV doesn't go everywhere.
Yeah, so this is me. Like I said, I have this thing like, I can hide. And I go there, and literally while we were driving in the van with the other contestants to the studio, I was like bragging about what I thought was going to turn out. I was like, oh, nobody has to know that we're going to do the show. And they look at me and say, you know that this is being filmed here, but this is actually an American show. Like, it was getting shown in Canada, obviously, but like, it was getting shown in the Food Network Canada. And that's what I thought I was working with, because that's what the paperwork said. But no, it's also their sister company, the Cooking Channel, is actually showing that as well. It's going to be in national TV. And I was like, what? So it's just like, I was just like, no. But at that point, again, it's kind of like MasterChef. I already signed the contract. I'm doing it. I have to compete. So I always find myself in this like, did I just like say yes to like massive, like basically it's a huge platform. And like I said, at this point, I've learned to own it. And even with MasterChef, that was like my last post kind of was reflecting that, like how I am grateful that I did it. It's for a reason. And sometimes you don't know what your gifts are until people remind
Absolutely.
you, and these opportunities come and they happen, and you're like, oh wait, this is my contribution. And I'm, now just learning to be more proud of it.
Oh, I
So,
love that.
so thank you.
That's such
Yeah,
a beautiful thing.
You should say yes more often.
You should.
Yes, like right, I should. I keep saying no and they keep coming back.
Practice it.
Yeah, I'm practicing.
Just go into the mirror. Yes, yes, yes.
Yeah.
It's good for you.
That was a move.
It's the ultimate positivity saying,
It
right?
is.
Yes.
It is. It's not like why, but it's got to be like, why not? Like, do it. Just do it, So,
Yeah.
I mean, everything happens for a reason, right? Like I said, even going back to the fire, and it's a devastating time on Maui, but I was talking to, well, a team of people today about, we have a few projects. I had a meeting with basically my soon to be new board for my nonprofit, and we're talking about, like, you know what, we're gonna save the world. I mean, you kind of want to be able to do that, but it's really important, I think, that we all know what our strengths are and how we can contribute, and this is basically what happened to me. It wasn't my plan. I didn't dream of it. I mean, I have to admit that when I first started Donut Dynamite, I just wanted to show off. I wanted to show off my skills. Like, I am very comfortable in the kitchen, and at least in the pastry kitchen. And I wanted to show how I could change people's minds. This is my ego speaking to me at the time. Like, I can show you the best donuts on the planet. And that was my goal. And I didn't know that was going to give me a little, not slap in the face, but like, hey, no, something is more important than you. And when I did find that, again, that sounds cliche, but when you do something, when you serve, using your gifts, I think it's you just have this sense of bigger accomplishment than if you just won the trophy. It's
and it
the real
comes back to you so many times over.
Yeah, and I feel really good about it. So that's that.
Oh my gosh. Oh, thank you for sharing everything with us. Let's go back to how we can donate, where we can donate. Are they going to be able to find the links with us, or are we just going to speak them? Or
yeah, so I'm gonna send you the link so you can put it on your page, and I would really, really appreciate it. Like I said, I would suggest local organizations first.
Yes.
Well, this is my tier. If I have to choose, I would donate to a family first, like a real person first, if I have that option. So I have the Lahaina Ohana Venmo page that I'm gonna send you. So if you prefer that, that's you have that option. And then we have local organizations first. Like I said, there's Maui Strong Fund, there's Maui Rapid Response, Maui Mutual Aid, that is run by Kanaka, or local people. There's Common Ground Collective, that with or without the fire has been, that's been their purpose is to make sure that food, like real healthy organic food, is going out there instead of being wasted, and basically showing that we do have enough food on Maui to feed ourselves. And then we can go up to whatever people feel like, okay, that's an organization I believe in. Like, I think World Central Kitchen is doing amazing work here and everywhere else. Of course, there's the Red Cross, that's universal. And then there's so many organizations right now, but I just want to say, be careful, because sad thing is when something like this happens, people do take advantage. And so even the first week we had, there were some organizations that started raising money, and then we couldn't really verify who they are. So that's why I have a list here of what I personally know are organizations that I can say, hey, I know these people, and then at least verified organizations outside of Maui. So I'll give you that list.
Okay.
So thank you.
Awesome. Well, thank you.
So Megan's usually the one to cry on this show, but I think I'm going to do it right now. And I know that, some kids' parents have died. And what can we do? Feeding people is great. It's a necessity, but what do we do for the kids who don't have family anymore?
Yeah.
What can we do?
Wow. Honestly, right now, like I said, this is the hum part of the tragedy where we're not quite as, like, we're not quite living on adrenaline right now. So now we're dealing with other layered problems like mental health issues. There were already at least one suicide that I know of, uh, the victims, if you will, that survived. And that is a huge problem right now. The survival guilt is a real thing. I have that myself. But people who have families that passed, and they're the ones who made it, and they're dealing with a lot of mental health issues right now. So um, that's not my expertise, but I think, it when you say when we say, like, keep Maui in your prayers are, and I'm not like necessarily a very religious person, but prayers are amazingly powerful. um I mentioned that program that my friend was starting, Voices of Aloha, and I'm actually going to put it out there as well, where people can send in letters, cards. I'm going to Alaska, and Lizzie teaches kids, and I'm holding a class with her, a children's cooking class with her, and it's something that, these young people, sometimes they're like so innocent and not realizing the impact of that, like losing your parents. And you know right now we haven't talked about where they will be going. One thing about Maui is that community will support, so most of these kids will have family, or at least um, an extended family who would take them. So in a way, I think if we just act as we do on Maui, they will have a family to go home to. But I think right now it's the mental health issues that we rarely ever get to discuss, and it doesn't get enough support. Um, there are organizations that are coming together, and that's the next level, I think. Right, so there's the rebuilding of the physical, town. There's rebuilding of the community, and there's rebuilding of people's, I mean emotionally right now we're crushed, right? um we got to get the morale back up. And so, yeah, again, it's not my expertise, but there are going to be organizations that are going to start working on that. And the more I know about it, and thanks for bringing that up, I do have a lot of people I can reach out to that can give us that information and how to help, especially being so far away from the mainland. And again, this is one of the reasons why I'm doing this, is because we are depleted. We're like emotionally depleted. And I thought that, hey, I have friends in the mainland that I want to talk to, and I want you to talk about it, because
Absolutely.
besides donations, we need other kind of help. We're talking about visiting Maui too, and that's one thing that we didn't talk much about. um, you know, when this first happened, the immediate reaction is like, "Oh my God, we're closed. We cannot deal with tourists right now." And so there was this message put out there. It's like, "Oh, Maui is closed. Don't come here." And sometimes that's just your initial like knee jerk reaction because you cannot deal with it, and I get it, and that's understandable. We do need time to heal, but I think also one way that people can do other than donate is if you can go on a vacation and choose to come here, we need it. I am not all about 100% tourism as part of our local commerce, but we do need it. So that's one way to support Maui, is to be here and be
Yes.
respectful. And maybe if you come here, I mean, we'd love it if you take some time to volunteer or plant a tree. Or there are some eco tourism happening here, and we have this program called Malama Maui, and this was something that was already organized and started during the pandemic. So Maui Visitors Bureau is another resource to find out more about like tourism here on Maui right now, and how you can help as a tourist. Like, if you come here, please support the local small businesses, because that's really what we need right now. And I talk about Maui and how beautiful it is and how the community just came together. A lot of the restaurant, pretty much many people in like many businesses in Lahaina are gone, right? So the ones remaining here were the ones who jumped in and fed these people, who were the ones who like housed people. So these people need support as well. So if you come here as a tourist, like, support a local small business,
Spend your
because
money.
these are the people who are
Yeah.
going to support the people in Lahaina who lost everything. So it's just being mindful, that
Absolutely.
when you come, be mindful, be kind. I mean, we want you to have your weddings here, we want you to celebrate here, but just remember that there, we are here, and we can't help it. When people come here, we welcome people with aloha, a lot of smiles, but we are also hurting inside. So just be nice. And
Yeah.
when people are going through pain, sometimes they seem like they're not welcoming, but really we would appreciate the help.
Understandable.
Thank you.
Well, thank you so much for being here. It was so great to see your face.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you so
Oh my
much for
gosh.
having me.
Thank you for sharing your story, and we appreciate you.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate you.
Yeah.
Aloha.
All right. Best of luck.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you.
Aloha.
All right.
Thanks,
See you
guys.
later. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Okay. Are you still there?
Okay, so I didn't want to like just hang up because
You
I
did
figured
so
like,
great. You did so
Thank
great.
you,
Thank
guys.
you.
Appreciate you
Oh
both.
my
What time
gosh,
is it
I
there?
It's late. I don't know. It's
7:30
It's
here.
8:30.
Okay, that's not too crazy. Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. Wait, you're not in the same city?
No,
No.
we used to be.
Oh!
We used to live in the same neighborhood, but not anymore. We're in different states.
That's so wild. That's so fun.
Yeah.
So I have my
Yeah.
own podcast as well, which I started, I guess I would say a year or so ago, a little over a year ago, and I call it my clickbait sustainability podcast, because it has all
Okay.
these clickbait photos of me, like pretty much naked with my donut, But it's like it's my clickbait podcast, but it's actually like a podcast on sustainable
Don't give
happiness.
Bill any ideas. I am not doing that.
That's so funny. That'd be so hilarious, though. It's like you will have to call the podcast something else. But
Right,
it's
like
so
a casserole.
She Megan did tell me something about that, so she warned me.
it's like a sexy podcast, and I make it sound like that, but actually all the topics are about supporting local businesses and sustainability and all that stuff. And so the topics are very wholesome, and I make it a point that it's like I clickbaited you to listening to a story you probably wouldn't. And so that, again, talking about like gifts, I'm not very shy, so I'm like, and it's one more thing that I do kind of on the side. It's like, because I'm called Madame Donut, a lot of people are surprised when they see me, because they're expecting a big lady, or you know what I mean, like they don't expect a girl in a bikini running around, and so I kind of thought, like, just for comedy, I kind of thought, like, that's kind of an interesting concept in a way. Like, there's that donut lady that's mostly naked, but she's actually talking about other things.
Stuff that matters.
Right away, people are like, oh, do you have your OnlyFans? And also, so the danger in that is like, it brings people who may not be the audience that I want, but they leave. They leave. So I don't really, that's not become a problem. Because at first I was a little worried about that. But they leave when that's not exactly the content that they want. However, I do bring in some people who would normally think that they want to listen to any more like sustainability podcasts or whatever, or farm and all that stuff. And when they hear what I got to say, I do get a lot of respect for it. In fact, most of my fans are all about what my content is more than what I put out there. But I made it a joke. It's part of my
you have to
thing. It's really funny.
I know, and I love
Bill,
it.
you gotta check it out.
So
like,
much.
Oh my god, it's literally the logo is me naked with a donut hiding everything. I think it's hilarious, but that's part of my comedy.
I love
you
it so much.
guys. Really appreciate
thank you for being
it.
here, and I hope that people listen. I hope we raise a lot of money for Maui, and
Yeah.
I'd love to come back. Soon. I was there earlier this year, but I would love to come back.
And when you come back, we'll do something else too.
We'll do something together, and we'll do a collaboration, and I'd love to help volunteer. So
thank you.
next time.
Thank you so much. There's always something to do. So
okay.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate
All
you.
right.
Thank you.
See you soon.
Have a good night.
See you later.
Bye.
You too.
You too.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.